Hey everyone, welcome to Perpetual Progress Project Episode 7. We're going to talk about how I've gotten back in touch with Swifty, and then I'm going to give you an update on all of the project stuff I've been working on, which is primarily learning AI. So first off, over to get in touch with John. I sent him an email and he's got my email address now and my phone number, and we've exchanged some texts. He's been rather busy lately with the Steam Deck giveaway, and then I think the other day he was busy building a new computer. So, I said I was too busy to contact Swifty for about 8 years. I can't get mad if he's super busy and he can't get in touch with me just yet. I think the expression is, shoe is on the other foot. Now over to the progress made with AI video generation. First of all, I want to show you the video that got me inspired. Let's watch a couple of clips from that video right now.
You just can't understand.
Why do they call it taking a dump when they're clearly leaving it?
Bro, what's something about humans you just don't understand?
My ex was human, and he would just sit on the toilet for hours.
That's so real. What's something you find strange about humans?
They smell food they know is expired, confirm it's bad, then make someone else smell it.
That's crazy. Quick question, what's something about humans you can't wrap your head around?
Why do they pee-pee when they poo-poo, but they don't poo-poo when they pee-pee?
Something about humans you just can't understand.
Why do so many of them throw down in the Waffle House?
Bro, for real though. What's something you find strange about humans?
They watch videos of singing toilets called Skibbity repeatedly, bro.
Something about humans you just can't understand.
They invented AI just to make fake girlfriends and Bigfoot videos.
What a waste of time, right?
Craziest thing you've seen a human do?
I was at a restaurant, and when the waiter said, "Enjoy your meal," my human friend said, "You too."
There will be a link to that Alien Street interview video they posted it on their Instagram page. Please go check that out and give them a like. So that was pretty cool, right? You have some guerrilla filming out on the street, and you're interviewing people and getting hot takes. Now, let me explain to you why that was so impressive and so inspiring to me. So the first thing that I need to do is explain what you would have had to do to make that video 5 years ago without AI. The first thing you'd have to do is get the live action footage. So you would need a director, a camera operator, and a sound tech. Now, the people that filmed that video, it was probably just 2 people because they were cognizant of the fact that the footage that they were going to take was going to later be used by VFX artists. So there's certain things that the camera tech needs to make sure of when they're filming to make the VFX artist's job easier, because they can also make it a lot harder. Okay. One of the things you'll notice, you might have noticed in the video, is all the lighting is uniform, right? There's not somebody standing in the shade and somebody standing in the sun, because then the VFX artist would have had to deal with that, and it would have increased the amount of time that they would spend doing their part of the job. In addition, you have the sound tech to make sure that there's not a bunch of honking horns in the background, but the fact that you can still hear the people clearly. Step 2 would be you take all of that footage back to the studio, figure out which clips that you want to use. You'd work with the storyboard artist and the director and the assistant director, and those 3 would work together to say, okay, we're going to use these clips and draw out how this would kind of look conceptually if we were to have everything done. So the storyboard artist would, make all those squares and then draw the aliens standing in the same spot for each one of the clips, right? Then you'd have the character concept design step, and that's where you would have an artist create the many different aliens that actually show up inside of the video. You would also have the assistant director and the director approve those concepts, or they would offer feedback, and then you would iterate on them until they were actually happy with the output. So ultimately, you would have a bunch of 2D sketches of the different aliens for each one of the scenes that you selected in the previous step. Now, after that, you would take those concept sketches and you would give them to a 3D artist or multiple 3D artists, or you'd give one alien to each 3D artist. It depends on how big your studio is. You might be handing all of those off to one person if you have a really small studio, or you might be handing off just 1 or 2 of them to each person if you have a medium to large size studio. They would create the 3D meshes of the alien characters based on the concept art. Next, you would need a texture artist. So this is going to be step 5, and this would be considered UV mapping and texturing. So you saw the alien that had the big muscles and had the purple skin, and then there was an alien with blue skin, and it was shaded correctly. It didn't look like there was a light shining on them. It looked like they actually belonged there where they were standing. That's what the texture artist does, and they make sure the lighting levels are correct and all of the shadows look correct, like on the big muscular dude. Then you move on over to step 6, which is the rigging, and you would need a technical artist for this. And they would build the skeletal system I've learned this in Unreal Engine, basically. They would need to get the skeletal system for the bodies to move around, and the hand the hand motions and the finger motions. And then you would move over to step 7, which would be motion tracking and match moving. So you would do this for their bodies. You'll notice that the people are moving around in the video, the base video that you took out in the street. So now you need to match all that with the 3D models using the skeletons that were created. And that would take a lot of time. You would have to look at the video, and you'd layer the video here, and then you'd layer the 3D folks on top of it. And when somebody moved, you would have to go in and click on the right bone in the skeleton, and then move that ever so slightly so it matches the video. Okay, this is a ton of time. This takes a ton of time. Okay, this is why if you watch the credits to Avengers Endgame, the credits look like the Vietnam War Memorial. Okay, that's probably not the best reference, but you get what I'm saying. After that, you'd move over to step 8, which would be the facial motion capture. So even 5 years ago, this technology was out there. If you want to see a good video on it, watch the making of The Hobbit. You see Benedict Cumberbatch has got all this stuff on his face, and he's making these facial expressions in front of a camera. And that allows you to match the facial expressions that the actor's making with the facial expressions that your 3D model is making. Now, in this case, the person doing the face acting, I guess, would be copying the mannerisms and the movement that you saw in the base video. So they basically just act as a copycat. And then that way, instead of needing to manually animate the face, which can be done, but that takes even more time, you can use the motion matching to animate the facial expressions. Okay. Next, you'd hand all of this over to an animator. So this is step 9. And the animator would put everything together, would make sure that the facial expressions and the body movements work together to form the whole composite, right? Next, you move over to step 10. That's where you'd have a lighting artist or technician. You'd have a lighting artist and rendering technician, and they would make sure that everything looks like it belongs there. I already used the example, but the lighting is correct. It looks like those people should be there. It doesn't look like any of them have a big spotlight on them. And that's where the craft comes into play. That's why you need somebody skilled at doing that. Finally, you'd have the compositing. So you would take the original video, and then you would take all of the animation that has been put together, and you would render it. You would render the characters, basically. So you'd have the base layer of the original video, and then say in like Unreal Engine, you could render things to video in Unreal Engine, and that would basically be the aliens moving around and talking, but you would have like a blue screen or a green screen or a red screen, depending on the alien skin tone, in the background. That way, on step 12, which would be the final edit, you take the original video Then you put the rendered alien characters on top of it, make sure it matches up on each clip, and then you'd key out that green, blue, or red screen. So then you see the aliens on top of where the humans are. Everything matches up. So when a human moves, the alien moves, and you can't see the human because the alien 3D model has been matched to cover everything up, right? Okay, so let me go over the list of all of these steps and all of the different skill sets that you would need. Now, in Hollywood, each one of these things is somebody's job. There's typically not a lot of overlap, but in smaller studios, you would have somebody that knows multiple of these things. So step one, you'd have you'd get the live action footage. You'd need at least 2 people to do that. You'd need somebody to hold the camera and somebody to hold the microphone and interview people. Step 2, you'd need the storyboard artist and an assistant editor, and you'd have to organize the clips and figure out what the visual effects are going to be. Then you'd hand it over to the concept artist. Then you'd hand that over to the 3D modeler, then the texture artist, then the person rigging everything up, then the motion matching and a VFX artist to put it all together, then the animator and a facial motion capture actor, basically. Then you need a lighting artist and a rendering tech. Then you need a compositor and an editor, finally, to put it all together. So you're looking at like 12 different skill sets to put all that together just 5 years ago. So this would take weeks to months, depending on the studio size and the complexity of the footage. Now let's talk about what it would take to do with AI. So it would take 3 to 6 weeks to set up the AI model to do this. And then it would take you would train and refine the base model. You'd build a pipeline for the script animation, and then you would test and iterate on each clip, right? So it would take 3 to 5 weeks to set up everything initially if you knew exactly what you were doing, and then it would take probably 2 days per clip. And maybe towards the end, you would get things good enough where it might only take a day and a half or 1 day to do a clip. Now, the big difference here, and the reason I'm so impressed with all of this, is because one of these things scales, the other one does not. So once you make the AI model, you spend all that upfront time, then you can do that same thing to as many clips as you want in perpetuity. If you were going to do this the old way, you would have to repeat all of the steps with all of those different people that have all of those different skill sets. So the reason I'm excited about this is that by learning to set up these video AI pipelines, you can cut out 80% of all of the manual labor that has to be done without sacrificing the quality. See why I'm excited yet? So it's always helpful for me to have an end goal. And right now, the end goal that I've set for myself is to make some in-universe Helldivers 2 propaganda reels or commercials. I've been playing a lot of Helldivers 2 at the end of the live streams if you've stopped by to watch. So I'm in the middle of teaching myself Stable Diffusion, and because I need to understand how these function at a minute level, and because I need to be able to have complete control over that minutia, I'm also teaching myself Git and Python. Now I'm going to show you all of the things that I've come up with so far. I started out with still images because those are the easiest, and then I moved over to video. So here goes. These are the first still images I made using a model that was trained specifically to make realistic people. I gave it a reference image of myself, so that's why you see the bald head and beard. I wasn't too happy with that, so I fed it a text prompt and it starts putting out this handsome devil that you see here. And when I gender swapped him, it looks like the HR lady. Then I wanted to see what this Real Vision model could do for Helldivers, and I got these images. I then took this source image for Helldivers 2 and fed it some prompts to generate these types of images. I have learned that it's desirable to provide reference images that do not have any text on them because the AI is worse than I am at spelling. You can see how I'm slowly changing the prompt after each batch of images. We go from really close to the Helldivers poster to a really vintage American retro pulp look. After that, I get it pretty well dialed in and it starts looking like Helldivers again. Having figured this out, I tried to see if I could move over to video. This is the first attempt. It's very star-spangled because I'm sure I had the word American in there more than once. Actually, it was there quite a few times. It evolves over time because the technique I'm using to generate these continues to use random seeds throughout generating the entire batch. This produces the cool, trippy, psychedelic look you see here, and I can think of plenty of applications for such an effect, but I need to have continuity between frames, just like in the alien interview clip I showed at the beginning of this video. This is the second attempt, and it has that trippy look to it, which made me realize I need to use different techniques and tools. I've already mastered real still image to anime pipeline, as you can see here. The human and anime girl are censored for different reasons. What the anime version does wrong is it doesn't do see-through garments like we have in the real life image. So for the anime babe, it's a full bikini and bra top, but there's holes where the nipples are sticking out. I also had to crop the bottom of the anime image because you could see the top of the hoo-ha. So I would need to adjust the CFG or denoisy settings to get it to match the source image more closely, but I moved on because I don't really want to spend a bunch of time making porn. I just like looking at pretty girls while I learn stuff. Who doesn't? I found this really awesome LoRA. I did not generate the two videos you see playing here. They are examples posted by the creator of the LoRA, but this one I really want to get working. Look at this demon spawn. It's like a mix of Hellsing and Berserk. I'm imagining using this to help generate something like Warhammer 40k demons, but I'm running into some snags. Let me show you the images I've come up with so far trying to get it to work. This is the first image that I generated. I took inspiration from Lewis Carroll and wanted to get the Cheshire Cat resting on top of a mushroom. It looks very CGI because I'm using the realistic vision model, the one you saw where we made those business people. Now here's the second image, and you can start to tell, over here, it's that the influence of the LoRA is bleeding through a lot more. See, the settings for the LoRA's influence is way down on this image, turned it up a lot, and it's starting to look like this. So I figure I crank it up even more. And that's what it spit out. So I'm kind of scratching my head as to what went wrong. I dialed it down a little bit and it starts looking like this. And I keep adjusting the settings. We start getting all this weird stuff. All of these artifacts. You can kind of tell that there's a cat there and there's some mushrooms in a forest, but it doesn't look like the way we expected. It looks very surreal. A lot of artifacts. You can't even really see the cat's face. It's completely artifacted out. So clearly I'm doing something wrong. That's me trying just with prompts instead of any reference image. Looks very surreal. So I finally decided to switch over to an anime model. So instead of using realistic vision, I switched over to something that was trained specifically to make anime, and suddenly everything works. So the LoRA that I'm using, you specifically need to use some sort of anime model. You can't use a realistic vision model with it. It wasn't trained for that. See, this is another image. Turned out pretty well. This is me trying to get the influence of the LoRA to work with more of a illustrative model that's not entirely based on anime. It's more based on paintings and things like that. Still not turning out exactly the way that I was hoping, but I'm learning. You might be asking, what is a LoRA? In the context of AI, LoRA stands for Low Rank Adaptation. It is a technique used to efficiently fine-tune AI models. Instead of retraining an entire model, LoRA adapts the model by adding trainable low-rank matrices to its layers while keeping the original model weights frozen. This significantly reduces the number of trainable parameters, making the adaptation process faster, more resource efficient, and less computationally expensive. Think of it like a second pass of the AI generation using a set of smaller, more specific instructions. I recently ran into another issue where any video I try to make goes from the source image to a bunch of static after a few frames. I think it might be something wrong with the way I have everything set up. I started off with the automatic 1111 web UI, but now that I'm using Comfy UI, there are different dependencies. So I'm currently in the process of cleaning everything out of my system and starting fresh. I'm going to be taking my time to research and learn these different components as I move along. So if you stop by the live stream, you'll either see me looking at a bunch of terminals, running commands, interpreting errors, and scratching my head. Or you might see me generating an image, making some adjustments, then generating another image, making adjustments, etc., as I learn the different parameters and how they affect the image composition. Or you might see me doing some gaming. We've been into Helldivers 2 and Space Marine 2 recently, and I start loading up the games as soon as my brain gets tired and I can't take any more for the day. So if you stop by the live stream, you'll see some of that, or if you start at the beginning of the live stream and go all the way to the end, you'll see all of that. So thanks for watching. I'm sure Swifty will get in touch with me as soon as he can. We'll then start doing all those collabs that so many of you have requested. Stop by the live stream and come hang out. It would be great to have you around. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.